Velocity 2X is a fast-paced scrolling shooter from FuturLab, and it's a follow-up to their 2012 original. In it, you play as Lieutenant Kai, who, after dodging death shutting down a black hole, finds herself abducted by an alien race who plan to use her ship's warp tech for their own dastardly intergalactic doings. Luckily for Kai, a fellow alien prisoner breaks her out. In return, Kai agrees to help save the alien slave race by recovering life pods while she searches for a way home. While the story only serves as a thin excuse to string together the game's stages, I was actually impressed with the playful writing. It never takes itself too seriously and adds some much needed personality and colour to what could be a pretty standard shooter. Speaking of colour, the game's neon electric palette also provides a great art style that, while simple, creates a sharp, clean aesthetic that suits the frantic action and intense pace of the game. Unfortunately, cutscenes between levels are restricted to static storyboard stills that don't really maintain the inertia of the gameplay, and the lack of any voice talent also detracts from the characters. A real missed opportunity, especially for Kai herself, who looks like she's modelled off some sort of cyborg hipster version of Samus. As you venture upwards in your ship through the game's vertical stages, you'll use your warp drive to teleport around the screen, avoiding obstacles and jumping to new areas. This is done by combining a button press with the thumbstick to navigate the cursor to your desired location. At first, it feels pretty clumsy and awkward, as does the multi-directional bombs, forward-facing cannons, and extra thrusters. But there's something really wonderful about the game's controls. After a few stages, everything will just start to make sense, and there's a real moment of clarity as everything just effortlessly blends together. Suddenly, you're teleporting with a quick flick of the thumbstick, flinging out bombs in every direction, all while blasting through enemies at breakneck speed in a zen-like trance, and it just feels fantastic. The game breaks up these in-ship missions with the addition of side-scrolling platform areas, which put you in control of Kai herself as she navigates interiors. While a direct contrast to the space combat, these sections were actually the highlight of the game for me, feeling less like a tacked-on feature and more like a second game entirely. These areas manage to mimic your ship's controls but on a horizontal plane, and all without losing any of that sense of speed and fluidity. Kai can teleport short distances, sprint and slide, as well as fire her arm cannon in a glorious 360 degrees. And much like the space stages, you're encouraged to link all these moves together and race through each area, collecting gems and leaping obstacles without ever pausing for a breath. And while I really enjoyed flipping between these two game styles on the fly, I was a bit disappointed with the overall lack of urgency in the game. Sure, there's a generous timer for each stage, and you'll need to earn XP by completing levels in faster times, but there was never really a threat of failing a stage or being forced to make death-defying stunts. This is especially relevant during the puzzle stages that have you searching for and destroying numbered switches to deactivate force fields. There is some interesting backtracking to be had with deployable spawn beacons that can be navigated on a map screen, and this is where some of the level design really shines, with multiple branching paths a la Metroid. But overall, these maze-like levels end up breaking the flow of the game as they slow it right down to a crawl, and in a game called Velocity, this isn't a good thing. Fortunately, these stages only make up a small portion of the game, and the remaining levels are all cleverly designed to utilize the game's best features like mid-jump warps, sideways strafing runs, and even a projectile teleporter that can be thrown to reach distant platforms. The game also throws a number of boss battles at you, and they're great little skill tests. However, just like the regular enemy types you'll face, there's never really enough of them, and they lack any meaningful variety. It's not a huge game with a total of 50 short levels, however, replaying stages is often inevitable if you want to gain enough XP to progress through to the end. Suddenly, facing a locked out level when I thought I was progressing steadily really felt like hitting a brick wall. And I was forced to go back and either speedrun levels or collect more gems and life pods. It's not an unenjoyable experience, but I would have preferred doing so after completing the main game instead of breaking up the pace of the story. Overall, while Velocity 2X feels a little fiddly at first, this sci-fi shooter is well worth the play as it's a real thrill to master, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.